Hey.
Hey, Glenn, did you find any eggs?
Yeah, 4.
4?
1 broken and half eaten.
By what?
Probably a chicken eating a frozen egg.
Oh, they do that? I didn't know they did that.
Well, if it freezes, it breaks open. And chickens will always collect broken eggs. They even eat the shell.
Oh, wow. But if they know, like, if it's not broken, that it's important, right?
Yeah. If it's not broken, it stays there, and different chickens will go and lay at the same place. So you can find a number of eggs at the same place on the same day, even though you picked up the ones the day before. That's because more than one chicken has decided that life should continue where most chickens go, and they can take turns sitting on the nest.
How many eggs do you think a chicken usually lays in its life?
Well, from my experience, I would say that most chickens would lay about 5 eggs a week, so with 2 days off, because it's 1 egg a day type of thing. But each chicken, if you have 10, 12 chickens, you're going to be picking up somewhere around 7 to 8 eggs on an average every day. And they're not coming from the same ones.
Now, like
overlap.
The rooster, right? Like it can just be like one rooster, and it will go around fertilizing all the other chickens.
Well, they can't fertilize here because there's no rooster.
Yeah, I know, but like if you had one, would it do every single chicken on the property?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man.
It would also attack anything that comes close, including human beings.
Why is that?
Well, it's their harem.
Ah. Yeah. It's
Harlem of the chicken coop.
They I saw elks do something similar. I haven't read anything about them, or I haven't seen. I'm not around elks, but I haven't read anything about them attacking people. But they have like a similar style.
Yeah.
I guess that's why they call it. Why they name the certain lodges after these animals, probably for genetic engineering. But yeah, that painting.
Tell me what it means to you.
To me, well, look at it here. Being well, I already spoke a little bit about it with Jennifer. Something I know it's something to do with something dripping or leaking, the Milky Way or something.
Mhm.
And the cat.
Well, that's what the title is.
So the cats.
Licio cats. Cielico.
Is that a word?
Yeah. Ciel is the French word for heaven. And then it continues into a word that you could make leak out of. So they're getting leaks of stuff out of heaven. Cielico. They are a group of cats that have a special role to play on the farm here. Once they mature and reach a quantity equal to about 100. And 100 can be used to replace one with an L, lowercase l, which makes it the Lu. So it's about the Lu at the Sioux. Their job involves doing something. Cats are the most difficult animal to herd. As a matter of fact, the leader of the U.S. Senate once compared them to senators. They each are of their own mind. In this case, the position of of Ursa Major, the Big Dipper, suggests that they're talking about late July, beginning of August, but probably more late July. You know, the Big Dipper orbits around the pole. And as it orbits, it also turns. And what you see when you look up in the sky can also give you the time of the year you're in, depending on whether it's pouring, kind of showing itself emptying, or as it turns around upside, it's the position of receiving. This particular position shown in the picture would suggest a time between July and September, more than likely the end of July or thereabouts. These cats that are going to be in a number of approximately 100 will in fact herd people who are destined to travel to the fifth dimension, or if you want, in our people's terms, on earth is heaven. The fifth dimension has the possibility of giving earthlings a new start after having screwed up completely and beyond repair the existing four-dimensional universe. Four-dimensional universe because each preceding universe, of which there are 26, and this is the fourth, had one dimension added to it at every universe along the way. So we start in the first universe in one dimension, go to the second universe in two dimension, third universe, 3-dimension, and the one we're living in now is, with the addition of time, a 4th dimension. The next universe, which will be occupied by the disentanglement of the helix of the dead to date, which number approximately 7 billion people have lived and died, with another 7 billion people now walking the face of the earth, give or take a few million. And the cats, along with a group of people leaving the farm, will basically herd humans into the 5th dimension. So these cats will join humans who have lived and died, and cats who were born and died on the farm, led by these 100 living cats on the day it happens. And that, of course, will be the next journey as the world as we know it is brought to an end. The world as we know it is the end product of bureaucratic control. Bureaucrats took power in 1789 and decapitated their leaders. I'm sure you've noticed there's been a lot of talk in the media about decapitation as something that is occurring fairly often these days, thinking in terms not of the method used by the French in 1789, but manually by people who appear on a video showing them decapitating people in Iraq and Syria, Afghanistan, Pakistan, that general area known as Persia at one time. The bureaucrats are, as everyone in the world alive today, are products of genetic modification. Most of that genetic modification in the last 3,000 years has occurred in the Balkans or in Syria. By using the DNA of known individuals and mix and matching that DNA and replacing the contents of a female egg with a new recipe, the genetic engineers have been able to manufacture gene pools that will be useful to their end times plan for a period of time until their shelf life usefulness has expired. If you think about it in terms of the education we got in school, think of Adam and Eve beginning the manufacturing of a gene pool. Cain being manufactured as a builder. Abel being manufactured as someone who will take refuge and hide and operate from a position of unknown. And as the gene pools are used, a tweaking process exists with the offspring so that the offspring of the original will improve on the knowledge and ability of their own offspring, which may or may not be direct offspring because what they work on is 4 generations. So it could be your great-grandmother having an effect on who you are today, as much as it could be your grandmother or your mother having the desired effect. But in the last 3,000 years, they needed at least 12 different offsprings, different gene pools, and they called them tribes. And each one was assigned a different task based upon the genetic material that was used from a person who had lived and died. At one stage of the game, it was basically monarchs that were being made because they would then have control over a larger group of people, usually about 2,000, and could add to the genetic engineering a certain amount of social and political engineering. Hang on a second.
Okay.
Are you there?
Yeah.
So every time they tweak the recipe, they slightly improve upon the quality of the task at hand for each gene pool. And they tweak it not knowing exactly what is the best outcome, and usually go past the point of what they were looking for. And at that point, they have to stop the tweaking designed to improve and start tweaking in the context of returning back towards the center point where they began, hoping to find the best place possible. Unfortunately, that leads to them going past the point that they consider best and have to again reverse the process. If you look at the context that Noah's Ark is a story written in the year 2900 BC. Therefore, 4,900 years ago. And what it demonstrates is at one stage of the game, having realized that they had gone too far in returning, and where they had turned backwards from was more in line with what they had wanted, they now had a gene pool of humans they had created over approximately 500 to 600 years that they had no use for. And therefore, their remedy was a flood. Kill the ones you made because you don't have time to go through the entire process again, and start with a few that are in line with what you used to have and what you want next, and start making them back again to take the gene pool back in that direction. And therefore, we learn about a modus operandi. War, pestilence, famine, disease, floods, hurricanes, many means by which one can kill people, including revolution. And getting back to what they wanted, eventually repeating the process a number of times. In 1789, it was decided by the bureaucracy that worked for monarchs to kill them unless they agreed to a new system called democracy. And that system meant that bureaucrats, not monarchs, would run the world. Bureaucrats have now, in this century, outlived their purpose. Bureaucracies begin at a country's border. Includes, after the border guards, immigration. And after immigration, police and criminals. Those are the main players in a bureaucracy. border guards, immigration, including refugees, and police. Their work is internal within the boundaries of the country in which they operate. And of course, recently we've been told by the border guards that they, not the politicians, control Canada. That what they say and what they do does not require anyone else's permission. That they are the bureaucrats with a responsibility equal to a monarch. Now, what seems to be happening is they themselves, these border guards and policemen and immigration people, have outlived their usefulness and are to be replaced with new border guards, new immigration people, new income tax people, because it's the income tax that pays and controls all of these groups. New police, federal and local, because they have presented themselves to be above and beyond the rule of law, and especially beyond the control of their own controllers. So the process began about 5 years ago in Syria, where the president set up artillery and started shooting their big cannons into municipalities in Syria who were in fact responsible for making the existing bureaucrat line. Thus diminishing in great numbers the bureaucrats that now control day-to-day activity. Lost you again.
Yeah, it cut off when you were saying something about bureaucrats controlling the day-to-day activities.
Yeah, Ma Bell doesn't like this story that I'm saying and often interferes while I'm passing the message on. In any event, where I was at, I was saying that in Syria, the president of the country turned his guns upon the known gene pools made by genetic engineers in his country for the purposes of making bureaucrats, and has so far killed about 400,000 of these people, while at the same time in other places made sure that less people of a different gene pool were simply scared into running away, and that number is approximately 14 million people to date who are living in camps in Lebanon and Turkey and Jordan especially, and are being spoken to by the UN, who then determine which gene pool they're from and if and when they should migrate to different countries and in what numbers. For example, Canada has agreed to take in 25,000 refugees sponsored by the government by the end of February. Their purpose here is to provide offspring who will be Canadian-born and will replace the existing gene pools currently employed as border security, immigration, including refugee, police, local and national. These children, known as sleeper cells, will grow into the replacement for the gene pool they want replaced within the next 25 years. Many of them will be used to replace great numbers of current bureaucrats whose position interferes with future plans. They are known as sleeper cells. So they grow up as Canadians and replace people on the border. The children of immigrants do that. Or a cataclysmic activity is designed to take out a large number of these people that are border guards, especially, and policemen, so that the immigrants can be used to replace those people in society already here who will take over their positions. The cataclysmic event planned for North America is, of course, known as the Lou at the Sioux. And what it does is it begins with a leak that is enhanced into a flood that then grows into an inland tsunami and liquefies much of the areas around the Great Lakes, the St. Lawrence River, the states such as Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, including in Canada, the area of Toronto, Hamilton, London, Sarnia and a whole bunch of places on the Bruce Peninsula, moving into the St. Lawrence Seaway, creating a situation where the Canadian field will respond by rising in a physics concept called isostasy, as you well know. I was notified by the cell recently that there was something going on, that the existing cats on the property had formed what we call a catmobile, which is mobile positioning to receive information. And the suggestion was that a leak in the Big Dipper would occur as a sign of a leak in the Lou at the Sioux project. And that without giving a specific date or year for that matter, they showed the Big Dipper in a turnaround position which can be attributed to the period in the year of late July to early September. Thus, the painting.
Well, yeah, I was talking to Jennifer last night. Like, I noticed in a lot of the symbolism, like the current movie, the film, that was very popular this year, and in the Rose Bowl parade, I kept seeing the sign of the bear. And Jenny told me that that's the sign for Ursa Major, the Big Dipper.
Yeah. Although physically, it apparently doesn't make much sense compared to the appearance of a bear today. However, all of that could have been planned any time after 24,000 BC, and bears just may have been different, have a longer tail, for example, in periods leading up to today than the short tails most bears have today. Very few of the images in the sky have names that you could basically say, yeah, that's where it got its name, because they don't look like what the name would suggest. The only ones that do seem to be the Big Dipper and the Small Dipper, Ursa Minor and Ursa Major. Now, you have to remember that in the code, an A and an E are interchangeable, so the name Ursa really stands for ruse.
Yeah.
The ruse is a plan, a trick being pulled on people, and since it is connected to the media, and Medi being the original name of the country where media was born, had had a capital by the name of Alem, and we know that there is a place on earth which is made up of those two words called Je, which means I in French. Je, ruse, Alem.
Hello.
So the trick that is being played on us, led by the media in support of their masters, is about to take its planned course. And Syrian immigration is the key. Since most Caucasians are of Syrian Middle Eastern descent, we have lived out our usefulness. I'll be back in a second.
Okay.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
So all of this is intertwined in the same manner as the intertwining of our gene structure.
Mm-hmm.
The word is entangled. Quantum entanglement basically means that we have two parts to human beings. One part is for the creation of a walking person that can be socially and genetically engineered based on a genetically engineered program they had used to bring them to life.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the other part is what one would call, in their world, a spirit. They use, of course, the word spirit in the same context as alcohol and drugs are spirits. They make you act in a way different than you would choose to act. And of course, in a human being, the way you act, the way an individual bureaucrat acts, is not visible outwardly that changes have been made in them. And therefore, they look like you and me, but have a different role to play, which requires that some become hypocrites while others become control freaks, and a third batch becomes criminal. And much of it is invisible to those people looking on. The change in them is not apparent by how they speak or act or walk in a manner, say that scotch, gin, beer, wine changes a person, but remains visible. That change remains visible in the eyes of onlookers. It's very difficult to spot a control freak or a hypocrite or a crook. I'm getting a call from Jennifer, so I'll have to leave. You got me?
Yeah, I heard you.
Okay. Call later.
Well, what time?
8.
All right.